If you grew up in the 1970s, you don't need a menu to remember school lunch. You remember the smell before you even walk through those double doors. Steam rising from metal serving trays, the clatter of plastic forks on compartmented lunch trays, and somewhere in that chaos, the lunch ladies in their hairnets preparing food that somehow tasted better than it had any right to. These weren't gourmet meals, but they were made with care by women who understood that feeding hundreds of hungry children required both skill and heart. The cafeteria was its own world, with its own rules and rhythms, and the food served there created memories that have lasted a lifetime. Let's revisit 25 school cafeteria lunches from the 1970s that have completely disappeared from today's menus. Rectangular school pizza. Friday meant pizza, and every student knew it. But this wasn't the round pizza you'd get from a pizzeria. School pizza came in massive rectangular sheets, baked on industrial-sized pans and cut into perfect squares that fit precisely into the compartments of your lunch tray. The crust had this unique texture, thick and doughy with just enough chew to make it interesting, and the bottom was always golden brown from sitting directly on those greased aluminum pans. Cafeteria workers would spread tomato sauce from giant institutional cans across the dough, then layer on a blend of mozzarella and commodity cheese that bubbled and browned in ways that regular pizza never quite achieved. That cheese had a stretchiness that became legendary. You'd take a bite and strings of cheese would follow, sometimes reaching all the way back to the tray before finally breaking. The whole cafeteria smelled like pizza on Fridays, and if you forgot your lunch money on pizza day, it felt like a genuine tragedy. Some kids would try to trade anything, literally anything, for a square of pizza. The recipe itself wasn't complicated, but making hundreds of perfect squares required timing and institutional knowledge that the cafeteria veterans guarded carefully. They knew exactly how long to bake it when add the cheese, and how to cut it so every piece was fair. Rectangular school pizza created its own category in your mind, completely separate from any other pizza you'd ever eat. Chicken patty sandwiches. Chicken patty sandwiches became the reliable protein option that appeared weekly on cafeteria menus throughout the entire decade. Breaded chicken patties arrived frozen and perfectly uniform, requiring only deep frying or baking before being placed on soft hamburger buns. The coating was seasoned with just enough spice to make each bite interesting and flavorful, while the chicken inside somehow stayed moist despite all the industrial processing. Mayonnaise and shredded lettuce completed each sandwich, creating something familiar and satisfying for students who knew exactly what to expect every single time. The consistency was actually the main appeal, with every chicken patty sandwich tasting identical to the last one you'd eaten. Students could count on this option when other menu items seemed too adventurous, unfamiliar, or just plain weird. Cafeteria workers genuinely appreciated how quickly these sandwiches could be assembled during the busiest lunch rushes when lines stretched out the door. Chicken patty sandwiches represented the industrialization of school food that prioritized efficiency and consistency while maintaining acceptable quality that students would actually eat. Cheese zombies. Cheese zombies appeared under different names in cafeterias across America throughout the decade, but the concept remained wonderfully consistent. Soft bread dough would be wrapped around slices of American cheese, sealed carefully at the edges, and baked until the outside turned golden brown and puffy. When students bit through that tender crust, melted cheese would stretch in long strings that required careful navigation to avoid dripping onto shirts and making a mess. The name varied by region. Some schools called them cheese pockets, others knew them as cheesy bread, but everyone loved them equally. These handheld treats required no utensils and could be eaten while walking to recess, making them incredibly popular with children who wanted to maximize their playground time. Cafeteria workers appreciated how they could prepare hundreds in advance, freezing unbaked zombies for later use when schedules demanded quick solutions. The combination of soft, slightly sweet bread and gooey, salty cheese created a textural experience that students would remember decades later. Cheese zombies proved that simple combinations, when executed well, could achieve legendary status in the lunchroom hierarchy. Corn dog nuggets. Corn dog nuggets were the bite-sized innovation that made hot dogs exciting again for students who had grown tired of the same old frankfurters and buns. Hot dog pieces would be dipped in sweet cornmeal batter and deep-fried until the coating puffed up golden and crispy around each individual morsel. The batter had a slight sweetness that perfectly complemented the salty, savory hot dog within, creating a flavor combination that children found completely irresistible. Served with individual packets of mustard and ketchup for dipping, corn dog nuggets disappeared from trays faster than almost any other cafeteria offering. Their small size made them perfect for little hands and completely eliminated the mess of traditional corn dogs that drip batter and condiments everywhere. Cafeteria workers could fry large batches quickly, easily keeping up with demand even during the busiest lunch periods. The nuggets stayed warm and maintained their crispiness longer than full-size corn dogs, maintaining quality throughout extended service times. Corn dog nuggets represented the cafeteria's ability to thoughtfully reimagine familiar foods into formats that better served institutional needs while somehow making them even more appealing to students. Hamburger gravy over mashed potatoes. This was the meal that proved cafeteria ladies understood comfort food on a level that went deeper than any restaurant chef's training. Ground beef would be browned in those massive tilting skillets. Then flour would be sprinkled directly over meat and stirred until it absorbed all the fat and juices. Milk or beef broth was added gradually, while someone stirred constantly until a thick, creamy gravy formed around every crumble of seasoned meat. This savory mixture was then ladled generously over mounds of mashed potatoes that had been made from flakes reconstituted with butter and milk. The combination created a meal that satisfied on the deepest possible level, warming children from the inside out on cold school days. Students who managed to clean their trays would often return for seconds when supplies allowed, and the smell of that browning beef would draw kids toward the lunch line even before the bell rang. The recipe required minimal ingredients, but maximum attention to technique. Lumpy gravy was considered completely unacceptable by the proud cafeteria veterans who took their work seriously. They'd stand over those skillets, stirring and adjusting until consistency was exactly right. Hamburger gravy represented honest, institutional cooking at its absolute finest. Fiestada Mexican pizza. Fiestada Mexican pizza introduced countless American children to flavors that existed beyond their family dinner tables throughout the 1970s. These hexagonal treats featured a crispy, tortilla-like crust topped with seasoned ground beef, refried beans, and melted cheese that turned bubbly in the cafeteria's commercial broilers. The beef was seasoned with cumin, chili powder, and garlic, creating an aroma that announced Mexican Pizza Day throughout the entire school hallways long before lunch period began. Unlike authentic Mexican food, Fiestadas were designed specifically for institutional efficiency. They arrived frozen in boxes and required only reheating before service, making them manageable for busy cafeteria schedules. Students loved the crispy edges that shattered satisfyingly when bitten and the stretchy cheese that connected each piece of their mouths in long strands. Some cafeterias would add shredded lettuce and diced tomatoes after the Fiestadas came out of the oven, while others kept them simple and focused on that core combination of meat, beans, and cheese. The distinctive hexagonal shape made them memorable and special, setting them apart from the rectangular pizza squares served on other days. Fiestada represented the cafeteria's genuine attempt to offer variety and introduce students to different culinary traditions, even in simplified form. Cinnamon rolls from scratch. Cinnamon rolls made from scratch filled entire cafeteria hallways with an aroma that announced something truly special was being served that morning. Yeast dough would be rolled flat, spread generously with softened butter, and coated liberally with cinnamon sugar before being rolled tightly into logs and sliced into individual portions. Those individual rolls were placed in large sheet pans where they'd rise again before baking to absolute golden perfection. Warm from the oven, each roll would be drizzled with vanilla icing that melted into the crevices and pooled slightly on the tray beneath. Students who arrived early on cinnamon roll days were rewarded with rolls still warm enough to release steam when pulled apart. The combination of soft, pillowy dough with sweet cinnamon filling created a breakfast treat that could rival any bakery offering in town. Cafeteria bakers often had to start their work before dawn to ensure the rolls were ready when students began arriving. These weren't frozen convenience products that just needed reheating. They were genuine scratch baking that demonstrated real skill and dedication. Cinnamon rolls represented everything that was special about having actual bakers working in school kitchens. Peanut butter bars. Peanut butter bars satisfied that after-lunch sweet tooth, while delivering protein that actually helped students focus through afternoon classes. The base layer combined oats, flour, brown sugar, and butter, pressed firmly into sheet pans and baked until it turned golden and fragrant. While that crust was still warm, creamy peanut butter would be mixed with powdered sugar and softened butter to create a thick, sweet filling that got spread across the entire surface. Then came the chocolate layer. Chocolate chips would be sprinkled over that warm peanut butter filling, where they'd melt and spread into a glossy, dark topping that firmed up as everything cooled. Once cut into small squares, these bars were rich enough that even modest portions left you completely satisfied. The combination of textures made eating them require your full attention. The slight crunch of the oat crust, the creamy peanut butter middle, and that smooth chocolate top all worked together perfectly. Schools could prepare massive batches that held well throughout lunch service without needing any refrigeration. The ingredients were affordable, and the recipe was forgiving enough that even inexperienced bakers could produce consistent results. Peanut butter bars became valuable trading currency in cafeterias, with students offering their milk cartons and fruit cups in exchange for extra squares. Salisbury steak with mushroom gravy. Salisbury steak with mushroom gravy was the cafeteria's honest answer to fine dining, transforming ordinary ground beef into something that felt almost elegant. Seasoned beef patties would be carefully shaped to resemble small steaks, then pan-fried until nicely brown on both sides before being completely smothered in rich mushroom gravy. The gravy was made from beef broth thickened with flour and studded generously with canned mushroom slices that added earthiness and visual appeal to each serving. Serve alongside mashed potatoes or butter noodles. This dish satisfied students who craved something more sophisticated than regular hamburgers or meatloaf. The patties stayed remarkably tender thanks to the addition of breadcrumbs and egg, holding together perfectly when cut with a fork. Cafeteria ladies took genuine pride in their Salisbury steak, carefully adjusting seasonings to create signature versions that students recognized immediately and specifically requested. That mushroom gravy elevated the humble ground beef into territory that felt almost like restaurant quality. Salisbury steak proved convincingly that institutional cooking could achieve real refinement without sacrificing the efficiency that made feeding hundreds possible. Tater Tot Casserole. Tater Tot Casserole combined simple convenience foods into something far greater than the sum of its parts during the frozen food revolution. Ground beef would be browned with onions and seasoned simply with salt and pepper, then spread across the bottom of hotel pans before being covered with cream of mushroom soup straight from industrial-sized cans. Frozen tater tots were carefully arranged in neat, uniform rows across the top, creating a surface that baked to golden crispness, while the meat mixture bubbled temptingly beneath. The tots absorbed just enough of the creamy sauce while still maintaining their signature crunch, creating perfect textural contrast in every single bite. Students genuinely loved how familiar flavors were combined in this unexpected format that felt both comforting and novel simultaneously. The recipe required minimal skill and could be assembled completely in advance, making it absolutely perfect for busy cafeteria schedules. Tater Tot Casserole represented the era's full embrace of convenience products while still managing to deliver genuine satisfaction and proper nutrition to growing children. Shepherd's Pie. Shepherd's pie arrived on cafeteria menus as a clever way to stretch ground beef while incorporating vegetables that children might otherwise refuse to eat. A layer of seasoned ground beef mixed with peas, carrots, and corn would form the base in large hotel pans. Mashed potatoes were spread thickly on top, and then the surface was roughened with forked tines to create peaks that would brown attractively during baking. The assembled pies baked until that potato topping turned golden and beautiful, with the meat mixture bubbling up temptingly around the edges. Each portion delivered protein, starch, and vegetables in a single serving that satisfied both nutritional requirements and childhood appetite simultaneously. Those crispy potato peaks became the most sought-after bites, with students strategically cutting their portions to maximize the amount of crunchy edges they got. Cafeteria workers deeply appreciated how shepherd's pie made vegetables acceptable to even the pickiest eaters who would outright reject those same peas and carrots if served separately. Something about having them mixed into the meat and hidden under potatoes made all the difference. This dish represented the institutional kitchen's complete mastery of disguising proper nutrition as pure comfort food. Cheese Dreams. Cheese dreams were the open-faced grilled cheese sandwiches that cafeterias served when bread supplies needed stretching and children needed cheering up. Slices of white bread would be topped with American cheese and sometimes a thin tomato slice before being placed under commercial broilers until the cheese melted completely and developed appealing brown spots. The bread underneath stayed wonderfully soft while the cheese on top achieved a texture somewhere between perfectly melted and slightly crispy. Serve alongside tomato soup. Cheese dreams created a combination that students automatically associate with comfort and cold weather. The open-face format meant each slice of bread could support a full portion of cheese rather than splitting it between two slices like a regular sandwich. Cafeteria ladies could prepare dozens simultaneously on large sheet pans, making cheese dreams efficient as well as genuinely popular. Some schools would add bacon bits or small cubes of diced ham beneath the cheese for extra protein and flavor. Cheese dreams proved conclusively that cafeteria cooking could achieve genuine deliciousness with minimal ingredients when approached with maximum care and attention to detail. Porcupine Meatballs. The name alone makes you smile, doesn't it? Porcupine Meatballs got their nickname from the way rice poked through the surface after baking, creating little spikes that really did look like quills. The cafeteria ladies would mix ground beef with uncooked rice, chopped onion, salt, and pepper, rolling them into balls before drowning them in thick tomato sauce. Then came the magic. As those meatballs baked in massive pans, the rice absorbed all that tomato goodness, swelling up and pushing through the meat. The result was meatballs that stayed moist and tender, with the rice acting like tiny flavor sponges. Schools loved this recipe because it was economical. 1 pound of ground beef could suddenly feed twice as many students when you added rice. But kids loved them for different reasons entirely. That tomato sauce turned sweet and sticky in the oven, coating each meatball in a glossy red glaze that tasted like someone's grandmother had been cooking all morning. On Porcupine Meatball days, the lunch line moved a little faster because everyone actually wanted what was being served. These weren't trying to be fancy Italian cuisine or anything complicated. They were just honest food that filled you up and made you feel cared for. Fruit cocktail cake. This was a dessert that proved cafeteria bakers could hold their own against any home kitchen. Canned fruit cocktail, complete with sweet syrup, would be folded directly into yellow cake batter, creating pockets of fruit throughout the cake. As it baked, the fruit would settle slightly toward the bottom where it became jammy and caramelized against the pan, creating layers of texture and sweetness. Some versions included a brown sugar and coconut topping that turned crunchy during baking, adding another dimension to each bite. The cake always came out incredibly moist and tender thanks to all that fruit and syrup. Students genuinely looked forward to dessert days when fruit cocktail cake appeared, and trading for extra squares became common practice. The recipe was brilliant from a practical standpoint too. It used shelf-stable ingredients that schools could purchase in bulk and store indefinitely. No worry about fresh fruit going bad or special ingredients that required refrigeration. Cafeteria bakers took real pride in their fruit cocktail cakes, sometimes adding their own touches like a pinch of nutmeg or an extra splash of vanilla. You could taste that pride in every slice. This cake represented the hidden talent that existed within school kitchens and the genuine care that cafeteria workers brought to their jobs every single day. Bread pudding with vanilla sauce. Bread pudding with vanilla sauce was a dessert that transformed day-old bread into something genuinely magical through patient baking and proper technique. Cube bread would be soaked thoroughly in a mixture of eggs, milk, sugar, and vanilla until every single piece absorbed that sweet custard. Then the whole thing was poured into greased pans and baked slowly. During the baking process, the top pieces of bread turned golden and developed a slight crispiness, while the interior became soft and custardy. Warm vanilla sauce made from butter, sugar, and milk will be ladled generously over each portion, pooling in all the crevices and adding richness to every bite. Students who initially resisted the unglamorous appearance were almost always converted after tasting the creamy sweetness hidden within. Cafeteria bakers would add their own touches to their versions, incorporating raisins, cinnamon, or nutmeg to create signature recipes that got passed down through decades. The dessert perfectly exemplified the waste-nothing philosophy, using bread that would otherwise be thrown away and transforming it into something special. Bread pudding taught students that humble ingredients, when prepared with genuine skill, could become truly extraordinary desserts. Swedish meatballs. Swedish meatballs arrived in school cafeterias during a time when Scandinavian cuisine briefly captured American attention in the 1970s. These weren't your ordinary meatballs. They were smaller and rounder, made from a combination of ground beef and pork mixed with breadcrumbs that had been soaked in milk. This technique created an exceptionally tender texture that practically melted in your mouth. But the real star was the creamy gravy that coated each meatball, made from pan drippings, beef broth, and sour cream that gave a pale brown color and rich taste. Cafeteria versions often had to substitute evaporated milk for sour cream to keep costs down, but somehow the result remained surprisingly delicious. Students would receive their portions of meatballs swimming in that creamy gravy, serve alongside egg noodles or mashed potatoes that soaked up every drop. The dish felt sophisticated compared to typical cafeteria fare, introducing children to flavors that went beyond standard American cooking. Even teachers would often request extra portions when Swedish meatballs appeared on the menu, recognizing quality when they tasted it. It showed that school kitchens were capable of executing more complex, international recipes when they had access to proper ingredients and the knowledge to use them well. Cheeseburger Pie. Cheeseburger Pie was pure cafeteria ingenuity, turning the beloved American hamburger into something that could feed entire classrooms from a single baking dish. Ground beef would be browned with onions and seasoned with salt, pepper, and Worcestershire sauce before being spread across the bottom of large pans. Then came the clever part. A simple batter made from eggs, milk, flour, and baking powder was poured right over that meat layer. As it baked, this batter transformed into a soft, bread-like topping that was somewhere between a biscuit and a pancake. During the final minutes of baking, sliced American cheese was layered on top, melting into a golden blanket that tied the whole thing together. The result satisfied multiple cravings at once. It had the flavor of a cheeseburger, the comfort of biscuits, and the heartiness of a pot pie. Cafeteria ladies loved this recipe because there was no individual assembly required. No standing there making hundreds of burgers one at a time. Just mix, pour, bake, and slice into perfect portions. Students loved it because it delivered everything they craved about cheeseburgers without any of the mess. No ketchup dripping onto your shirt. No pickle slices sliding out the back. Just pure cheeseburger satisfaction on a fork. Cafeteria Goulash. Cafeteria goulash bore little resemblance to authentic Hungarian cooking, but it became beloved comfort food in school lunchrooms across America nonetheless. Elbow macaroni would be combined with ground beef, diced tomatoes, tomato sauce, and a blend of seasonings that varied depending on region and which cook was working that day. The mixture would simmer together until the pasta fully absorbed those tomato flavors and the meat distributed evenly throughout the enormous pot. What distinguished goulash from American chop suey was often more about regional tradition than any actual recipe differences, with Midwestern schools particularly attached to calling it goulash. Served in the deep compartments of lunch trays, the dish provided complete nutrition in a single portion that required only a spoon to eat. Cafeteria ladies could prepare massive batches that held perfectly in steam tables for extended service periods without the quality suffering. Students who initially resisted the unfamiliar appearance and strange name often became devoted fans after that first bite revealed familiar, comforting flavors underneath. Cafeteria goulash taught children an important lesson about not judging food by its name or appearance, and that dishes from other places could still taste like home. American chop suey. Despite the name, American chop suey had absolutely nothing to do with Chinese food. It was a cafeteria's own creation, though the exotic-sounding name made it seem more interesting than simple beef and pasta. Elbow macaroni would be boiled until tender, then tossed with seasoned ground beef that had been browned with onions and green peppers in those massive tilting skillets the cafeteria used for everything. Tomato sauce brought it all together, along with oregano and garlic powder that made the whole cafeteria smell amazing. The dish ended up being this hearty one-pot meal that could sit in the steam table for hours without turning into mush. Schools across New England particularly embrace American chop suey, serving it weekly throughout the colder months when something warm and filling felt essential. What made it perfect for institutional cooking was how it combined protein, starch, and vegetables all in one serving. Cafeteria ladies could prepare enormous batches in advance, and the flavors actually improved as everything sat together. Students would pile their forks high and shovel it down, scraping their trays clean before heading out to recess. Some families made their own versions at home, trying to recreate that specific cafeteria taste, and never quite getting it right. There was something about cooking it in those huge quantities that changed the flavor in ways you couldn't replicate in a home kitchen. Scalloped potatoes with ham cubes. Scalloped potatoes with ham cubes was a dependable casserole that cafeteria ladies would pull out when they needed to feed hundreds of students with limited protein resources. Thin sliced potatoes would be layered with cubed ham, onions, and white sauce in deep hotel pans, then baked slowly until the top turned golden brown, and the potatoes underneath became perfectly tender. The white sauce, made from butter, flour, and milk, transformed completely during baking into a creamy binding that held each portion together beautifully when served. Students quickly discovered that the edges of the pan contained the absolute best pieces, where potatoes had crisped slightly against the metal while absorbing maximum ham flavor. A little ham went an incredibly long way in this dish, with its smoky, salty taste managing to permeate every single layer of potato. The casserole could be fully prepared a day ahead and simply reheated without losing any quality, making it perfect for busy cafeteria schedules when time was limited. Scalloped potatoes with ham represented the institutional kitchen's complete mastery of stretching expensive protein into satisfying portions that could feed everyone adequately. Chicken fried steak patties. Chicken fried steak patties brought Southern comfort food traditions into school cafeterias across the entire country during the decade. Thin beef patties would be dredged in seasoned flour, dipped in egg wash, then coated again in flour before being fried until golden brown and magnificently crispy. That double coating created a substantial crust that shattered satisfyingly when cut with just the side of a fork. White pepper gravy made from pan drippings, flour, and milk would be ladled generously over each patty, transforming them into something that approached actual restaurant quality. Students quickly learned to pour that gravy over their mashed potatoes as well, creating a unified plate of complete comfort. The patties arrived at schools pre-formed and frozen, making preparation manageable for cafeteria staff who simply needed the bread and fry them fresh each day. Even children who claimed to dislike beef in general would often make exceptions for chicken fried steak, completely won over by that crispy coating and creamy gravy combination. This dish proved beyond doubt that proper technique and attention could elevate even humble ingredients into something genuinely special and memorable. Vegetable beef soup. Vegetable beef soup was a cafeteria's practical answer to using every possible scrap of food while creating something genuinely nourishing and deeply delicious. Beef scraps and bones would be simmered for hours to create incredibly rich broth. Then diced vegetables were added according to whatever happened to be available in the walk-in cooler that day. Carrots, potatoes, celery, corn, green beans, and tomatoes joined the pot in varying combinations that made each batch slightly unique and interesting. The soup would simmer until all the vegetables were tender and all the flavors had melded together into something deeply satisfying. Served with crackers or fresh rolls, a bowl of vegetable beef soup provided complete nutrition in warm, liquid form. Students who felt under the weather would often specifically request soup, knowing instinctively that it would warm them through without requiring much effort to eat. Cafeteria ladies would adjust seasonings carefully by taste, adding bay leaves, thyme, and pepper until broth achieved proper depth and complexity. Vegetable beef soup perfectly exemplified the waste-nothing philosophy that defined institutional cooking at its absolute best. Creamed peas on toast. Creamed peas on toast carried forward the practical, Depression-era cooking philosophy into 1970s cafeterias without apology. Frozen peas would be simmered in a white sauce made from butter, flour, and milk until the sauce thickened enough to coat the back of a spoon. This creamy, pale green mixture was then spooned generously over slices of white toast that had been lightly buttered and kept warm in the steam tables. The toast would gradually absorb the sauce, creating interesting layers of texture from the still crispy edges to the soft, sauce-soaked centers. Some cafeterias would add slices of hard-boiled egg on top for additional protein and a bit of visual appeal. The dish looked incredibly simple, but it delivered real comfort, especially on cold winter days when students needed something warming from the inside out. Teachers who remembered eating similar meals during their own childhoods would often praise the cafeteria for keeping this tradition alive. They understood what younger students hadn't learned yet. That deliciousness doesn't require complexity or fancy ingredients. Cream peas on toast taught an important lesson about how vegetables could taste genuinely good when prepared with care and attention, rather than just dumped from onto a tray. Salmon Croquettes. When you saw salmon croquettes on the menu, you knew it was the middle of the month and the cafeteria budget was getting tight. But that didn't make them any less satisfying. Canned salmon would be mashed together with crushed saltine crackers, beaten eggs, and minced onion until everything held together well enough to shape into oval patties. Then these patties got rolled in more cracker crumbs and fried until the outside turned golden brown and crispy while the inside stayed tender and flaky. The salmon flavor was mild, nothing like fresh fish from the ocean, but it had its own gentle sweetness that worked somehow. Cafeteria ladies would serve them with a little cup of tartar sauce on the side, and often you'd get cream peas or macaroni salad as accompaniments. There was no middle ground with salmon croquettes. Kids either loved them or wouldn't touch them, and you could usually tell within the first bite which camp you belonged to. But those who loved them really loved them. They'd remember for decades away that crispy coating would shatter when you bit down, giving way to the soft fish inside. The recipe was practical in the best way, stretching expensive protein into portions that could feed everyone while still providing real nutrition. Looking back, salmon croquettes represented the kind of cooking wisdom that understood how to make something good from limited resources. Turkey Tetrazzini. After Thanksgiving, schools would get their commodity turkey deliveries, and that meant turkey tetrazzini would start appearing on the monthly menu. This was the dish that transformed leftover turkey into something that students actually requested by name. Cubed turkey was folded into cooked spaghetti along with sliced mushrooms from industrial-sized cans, all held together with a creamy sauce made from butter, flour, milk, and chicken broth. The whole mixture would be poured into deep hotel pans, topped with grated Parmesan and breadcrumbs, then baked until the top turned golden and the edges bubbled. Something magical happened during that baking process. The sauce became silky and rich, clinging to every strand of pasta and piece of turkey. The mushrooms added an earthy depth that made it taste more sophisticated than most cafeteria offerings. That breadcrumb and Parmesan topping provided the perfect textural contrast, crunchy and salty against the creamy pasta below. November and December menus featured turkey tetrazzini regularly, and kids who normally avoided casseroles would make exceptions for this one. The lunch ladies would watch with satisfaction as students scraped their trays completely clean, not leaving a single noodle behind. It proved that institutional cooking could achieve genuine deliciousness when the right recipe met the right ingredients and the right hand for pairing it. Which one of these lunches would you actually bring back tomorrow if you could only pick one? Drop your answer in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another journey down memory lane.